Okay, this is going to introduce you to bar charts which are for group data. So this is where we've actually taken some values like the scores from a test, and this is a test between from 0 to 20 marks. So if I want 5 groups, I think I've got 20 mark span. There, I want a nice round number to split this into. So if I did 23 by 5, I want groups of 4, which would allow me to create groupings. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would be my first group. So my first group is 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that's how I can create the groups to make them nice and even so that each group is represented fairly. And the next part is to go through and actually assign groups. So these two, it's easy because I've got data sorted. I didn't want to do a hunting exercise whilst we were doing this. It's 3 5 to 8, 9 to 12, we've got 2, 4, 6, 13 to 16, we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we've got the last 2, 4, 6 who are in the scores of 17 to 20. Now we're going to draw 2 diagrams. The first one is straightforward from here. It's exactly like we did with the line graph, the vertical line graph for drawing with discrete data. So if I put in a set of axes, I need to have space to go up to 7. So vertical frequency axis, I need to go to at least 7. And horizontally, I've got 5 groups. So I need to have a marking middle point for 5 groups. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Try not to make one of the grouping mark points on this 0. Leave the 0 always clear if you're doing these. So I've got frequency, and like I advised before, frequency is a pupil. And along the bottom we've got scores. The first grouping is 1 to 4. Second grouping 5 to 8. Then 9 to 12. Actually, I'll rescale it because it's looking messy. So let's erase those. Make the axis a bit bigger. So I'm going to have a marking here for 1 to 4. 5 to 8. Make sure the gaps are even. 9 to 12. 13 to 16. And 17 to 20. And my frequency axis, let's draw the axes in now. Remember, I've got a gap from the 0. I'll draw like that. Okay, now vertically I want the frequency, and the frequency traditionally starts at 0. If you didn't need to be down at 0 and you felt it was fine for you to be starting quite a high number, so maybe you've got frequencies which go 40, 43, 48, 49 and down to 43. You may not need to do that, and what you'll see sometimes is, sometimes in here, if you see an axis and it's got a zigzag on it, what it means is you've gone from 0. This is not evenly spaced, so it could go up to 40. And then we've got 41, 42, 43. Okay, and so you might see that on graphs sometimes. Let's continue my axis. My frequencies are quite low, so I'm going to do 2, 4, 6, 8. So I can evenly mark the positions. Then we need to plot our values, and you can do it as a line. So connect a point from there down, and point from the So you could draw a straight line through there. And that's still a suitable frequency diagram. People often don't like these because a single line can get hidden in an axis. And I would still normally keep a gap. Some people say because the sequence continues, it's 1 to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that they would happily let you butt them up. I would prefer there to be a gap still because it is discrete data. Yes, I'm showing that I've got scores of 5.5 in here, but there's not a score of 4.5 that would be allowed on this table. So I'm drawing my table using an evenly spaced graph. 13 to 16 goes up to 7. If you want, you can shade them in and then coming back down on the other side. I've now got my graphs. Hopefully, if you're doing this accurately, you do it by using lines and being careful about your positioning. There is a second type of graph which is similar to this, and it's called a frequency polygon. Now the word polygon means shape of straight lines. And that's what we're talking about using, is we're going to use a shape with straight lines. And the first frequency axis is exactly the same. But the horizontal axis isn't. And for these, I'm not exactly a fan. So let's draw in a set of axes, and we need the axes showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They need to actually be a full set of proper axes this time. So where's my draw a shape? And we're going to count 2, 4, 6, 8, and then pull it out to be, just make sure it lines up. So we got before 6, come on, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. And again, we've got scores along the bottom. But now we've got a horizontal axis like you would plot when you were plotting shapes like the bat. So we've got 0, 2, 4, 8, 16, 12, 16, and 20. And up the vertical axis, we've got 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Again, frequency with pupils. Now, the difference here is where we're going to plot our point. What we want is actually a point that's called the mid point. And the midpoint for these would be 1 plus 4 and divide by 2, 2.5. That's how you always find a midpoint. You take the low value plus the high and divide by 2. And you do that for all midpoints. So 5 and 8 is 13, divide by 2 is 6.5. 21 divided by 2 is 10.5. And you'll notice these, once you've done the first one, you're going up by the same width that we set up before. So this one is 14.5. 29 divided by 2 is 14.5. And the last one is 17 to 20. 37 gives me 18.5. And it's the midpoint we're using. The reason is this midpoint is a representation of all the scores from 1 to 4. We didn't have any zeros here. So all scores from 1 to 4, the middle value on them, if they were evenly spaced, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're finding this midpoint in the middle, and it's that 2.5. So to draw the graph accurately, we need to go to 2, there's 3.5, and we plot it at 2. That's my first point. Not on the axis, and it's not on the 3 either, it's halfway. At 6.5 we go up to 3. At 10.5 we go up to 6. And at 14.5 we go up to 7. So there's 14.5, we go up to 7, and at 18.5 we now go up to 6. So the frequency polygon, we use midpoints to plot. The last part is, to make it a polygon, we connect these lines up with straight lines. Now, frequency polygons have a big problem, that they're often misinterpreted, and people try to say, oh, 8 people, oh, about 4 people scored 8 marks, and 12 up here we've got about 7.5 people scored 12. You really can't say what's happening apart from at the points that you plotted. The shape of the reason they use the polygon is because the shape allows you to compare different graphs, and that's all it's for. Okay, so that's bar charts and group frequency for frequency polygons for discrete group data. This is a short addendum, an extra part. I would actually scale still the way I've shown and calculate the midpoints. What you might find is people would ask you to explain, describe these as inequalities and groups. And what they're talking about is saying which number, if the scores are from 1 to 4, and that's the nearest score, what scores would you say are in this group? And in that group, you would say we've got a score from 0.5 up to 4.5. From 4.5 and after, we'd go up to 5.5, up to 5. And what's the upper value that we would score an 8? That would be 8.5. So this is rounding values. What would these values would round to the score of 5 to 8? We've got 8.5 to 12.5. and 12.5 to 16.5 and 16.5 up to 20.5. So what people might ask you to do is plot those, and the reason they're doing that is because the middle, if you're using these scales as markers, this is the point directly in between them. You notice this one, I had it slightly above the whole number part to find the middle point. So what some people may do is ask you to find out what's the limits. That is the case in My iMaths and what they're saying in My iMaths. Okay, so that's an extra little part for My iMaths for its how to plot its horizontal axis.